Captain Elias Ward stood on the wide marble platform of the Varelian Grand Hall. Tall crystal towers shone outside the open windows, catching the pale light of two suns. The air smelled of metal and flowers, a strange mix of technology and nature. Elias kept his shoulders straight, but his heart was heavy. He was a soldier, not a man who liked ceremonies. Yet today he was the center of one of the greatest celebrations in the known galaxies. The Varelian Council had called him a hero. 2 weeks ago, his quick planning and fearless actions had saved the Varelian homeworld from a massive invasion. The enemy fleet had been larger and stronger, but Elias and his small human team found a way to break the blockade and open a path for Varelian defenses. Without him, the planet might have burned. Rows of Varelians stood on both sides of the hall. Their tall, graceful bodies glimmered in robes that shifted color like moving water. They watched him with a mix of admiration and polite distance. Humans were still newcomers in this part of the galaxy, and while the Varelians respected courage, they kept their emotions hidden. High Chancellor Vorex stepped forward, his long silver staff shining in the sunlight. "Captain Elias Ward of the Human Federation," the Chancellor said in a smooth, echoing voice. "Your bravery saved not only our cities but the lives of millions. The Varelian Council offers gratitude that will be remembered for generations." Elias gave a small bow. "It was an honor to stand with our allies," he replied. His voice sounded steady, though he wished the speech would end. The Chancellor's bright eyes narrowed slightly. "According to our oldest traditions, a hero who protects our world must be honored with more than words. You will receive a gift, one that binds friendship and destiny." Elias felt a sudden unease. He had read about Varelian customs but did not know what this gift could mean. He expected a medal, maybe a piece of rare technology. Instead, a pair of guards moved aside to reveal a small figure standing near the edge of the platform. A girl stepped forward, her thin frame wrapped in a simple gray robe. Her head was slightly bowed. She was Varelian, but unlike the others, her skin was not smooth or bright. It was a dull gray, uneven in texture, as if shadows lived beneath it. Her eyes, though large, lacked the shimmering glow common among her kind. The crowd whispered softly. Elias caught a few words even though they were spoken in the Varelian tongue. "Weak, unwanted. Why her?" "This," the Chancellor announced, "is Zira of the Varelian people. She will be your life companion should you accept. It is the will of the Council." Elias felt the weight of 100 eyes on him. A life companion? The meaning was clear. This was more than a ceremonial partnership. It was an old custom of bonding, a way to tie the hero's life to the Varelian future. Zira lifted her head slightly. Her eyes met his for a brief moment. They were not bright like jewels. They were quiet, soft, almost human in their sadness. Elias saw no arrogance, only a silent plea not to be judged. He understood at once. This was not an honor. It was a dismissal. The Council had chosen a girl they considered weak and unattractive, a way to give a reward without offering anything of real value. For a heartbeat, anger stirred in him. But he forced it down. He was a captain of the Federation. He would not insult their customs or the girl who stood before him. "I accept the gift," Elias said clearly. His voice carried across the hall. A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Some Varelians tilted their heads, confused by the human's calm acceptance. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed again, but he gave a slow nod. "So it shall be," he said. The ceremony ended with music from crystal chimes and a formal blessing. Zira remained quiet beside Elias, her small hands folded. When the crowd began to leave, Elias finally turned to her. "I am Captain Elias Ward," he said softly. "You may call me Elias if you like." She looked up. "I am Zira," she replied in careful standard English. Her voice was soft but clear, like the first sound of rain. "It seems we will travel together," he continued. "Are you willing?" Zira gave a tiny nod. "The Council has chosen. I follow." Her words were simple, but there was no fear in them. Elias noticed the way she stood. Small and thin, yes, but balanced, as if she carried an invisible strength inside. As they walked out of the hall, the long corridors echoed with the sound of their steps. Outside, the twin suns cast long shadows over the landing pads where human and Varelian ships waited. Elias guided Zira toward his shuttle. The human crew stood nearby, watching with curiosity. Lieutenant Harper, his second-in-command, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. They had seen strange customs in many worlds, but this was new even for them. Inside the shuttle, Zyra sat quietly in the co-pilot seat. She kept her eyes on the stars as the craft lifted off. The silence stretched until Elias finally spoke. "I know this must be strange for you," he said. "You didn't ask for this." Zyra turned her head slightly. "Strange, yes, but not painful. You don't seem angry." She paused as if choosing her words. "Anger is heavy. I am used to being set aside. This is only a different place to stand." Elias studied her face. Up close, he noticed faint patterns under her skin, like hidden lines of light that sometimes flickered when the shuttle passed a star. They were faint, almost invisible, but they gave her a quiet beauty that the Council had clearly failed to see. "You saved your world today," Zyra said suddenly. "They honor you in their way. Do not worry for me." Elias leaned back in his seat. "Honor," he repeated. "That's one word for it." The shuttle entered the upper atmosphere, leaving the crystal towers behind. The planet's blue haze faded into the deep black of space. Ahead, the human flagship waited, a silver spear against the stars. As they approached, Elias felt a strange pull of curiosity. There was something about Zyra that did not fit the Council's cruel description. Her quiet presence filled the cabin with a calm energy, like a soft current beneath still water. He glanced at her again. She was watching the stars, her expression unreadable. For a moment, a faint glow flickered deep within her eyes, so quick he almost thought it was a reflection from the shuttle lights. Elias looked back at the controls, his mind turning. The Council might see Zyra as weak, but his instincts told him there was more. Something hidden, something powerful. The stars stretched out before them, endless and full of secrets. Elias tightened his grip on the controls, unaware that this quiet journey with a girl the universe had overlooked would change the fate of more than one world. The human flagship Argent Dawn floated like a silver blade against the deep sea of stars. Captain Elias Ward guided the small shuttle toward the docking bay, while Zyra sat quietly beside him. The stars outside looked sharp and cold, but inside the cabin a strange warmth grew between them, a silence that carried unspoken thoughts. As the shuttle connected with the docking ring, the soft thump of magnetic clamps echoed through the hull. Elias rose first, checking the panels before turning to Zyra. "Welcome to the Argent Dawn," he said. "This will be your home for now." Zyra nodded without lifting her gaze. Her delicate fingers rested on her knees, and she moved with a grace that seemed almost too careful, as if she feared breaking the air around her. The hatch opened with a hiss. Lieutenant Harper waited with 2 crew members, all in dark Federation uniforms. Their eyes flicked toward Zyra with quiet curiosity. Humans had seen many alien allies, but Varelians were rare visitors to human ships. "This is Zyra," Elias said firmly. "She is my guest and under my protection. Treat her with respect." Harper gave a sharp nod. "Understood, Captain." The group moved through bright corridors lined with humming conduits. Crew members paused to watch the newcomer. Some smiled politely. Others whispered behind their hands. Zyra seemed not to notice. Her calm eyes studied the ship's walls, the lights, the faint hum of engines. Elias showed her to a small cabin near his own quarters. The room was simple, a narrow bed, a desk, a small window that revealed the endless night of space. Zyra walked to the window and placed her hand against the glass. "Your ship sings," she said softly. Elias tilted his head. "Sings?" "The energy moves like music," Zyra explained. "Low tones, steady and strong. Your kind builds with heart." Elias smiled faintly. "I've never heard anyone describe it that way." Zyra turned to him, her eyes catching the light. "You listen with ears." "I listen with more." The words lingered in the air. Elias felt a small shiver of curiosity. He wanted to ask more, but a call on his wrist communicator interrupted. "Captain, we're ready for debrief," Harper's voice said. "I'll be there," Elias replied. He looked back at Zyra. "Rest for now. If you need anything, call me." She nodded and returned her gaze to the stars. The debriefing room buzzed with quiet conversation when Elias entered. Officers around the table straightened at his arrival. Harper activated a screen showing reports from the mission and the Varelian ceremony. "Captain," Harper began, "there are some unusual readings from our shuttle during the return flight." "Unusual how?" Elias asked, taking a seat. "Energy spikes," Harper explained. "Small but strange. Systems recorded brief surges in the reactor output even though controls stayed stable. No malfunction detected, Elias frowned. Could it be interference from the Varelian atmosphere? Possible, Harper said, but his tone carried doubt. It happened again after docking. A short pulse through the engine grid. Nothing dangerous, but odd. Elias kept his voice steady. Run a full diagnostic. I want to know if our systems are compromised. As the meeting continued, he noticed the crew's sidelong glances. He knew their thoughts. Zyra had entered the ship, and suddenly the engines were behaving strangely. Humans were cautious by nature, and fear often followed the unknown. Later, Elias returned to Zyra's cabin. The door slid open to reveal her sitting cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed, hands resting lightly on her knees. The room felt unusually calm, as if the air itself had softened. Are you meditating? Elias asked. Zyra opened her eyes slowly. Listening, she said. Your ship hums with many voices. Some are restless. Elias leaned against the wall. Restless? The energy patterns shift, Zyra explained. Something pulls at the core. I can feel it, he studied her face. There was no sign of fear, only quiet certainty. Are you saying the ship is in danger? Not danger, Zyra said carefully. But a key imbalance, like a heartbeat that skips. Elias wanted to dismiss it as poetic speech, but he remembered the energy spikes Harper reported. He crouched down to meet her eyes. How can you feel this? Zyra looked at her hands. It is part of me. My kind hears energy as you hear sound. I have always known when machines or stars speak. Her words sent a chill through him. The Varelian Council had called her weak, yet she spoke of abilities no human sensor could match. Does the Council know you can do this? He asked. Zyra lowered her gaze. They know. And they hide. It is not a gift they honor. Before Elias could reply, the ship's alarm blared through the corridor. A sharp red light flashed across the cabin walls. Captain to bridge, the intercom shouted. We have a power fluctuation in the main reactor. Elias sprang to his feet and tapped his communicator. Ward here. On my way. He looked back at Zyra. Stay here until I return. But Zyra stood as well. I can help, Elias hesitated. The alarm screamed louder, and the deck shuddered beneath their feet. Against his better judgment, he nodded. Stay close. The bridge was alive with frantic motion when they arrived. Officers shouted readings, lights blinked in warning. Report, Elias barked. Sudden power drain in the reactor, Harper said, his hands flying over the controls, systems dropping one by one. We can't trace the source. Elias's eyes swept the screens. The ship's heart was failing. Without power, they would drift helpless in the cold void. Zyra stepped forward. I can find it, she said softly. Harper turned, startled. Captain, she shouldn't be here. Let her try, Elias ordered. His instincts overrode caution. Zyra walked to the main console. She placed her thin hands on the glowing surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a faint vibration filled the air, like the echo of a distant song. The red warning lights flickered. Her eyes closed, and her voice dropped to a low hum. The sound was gentle but carried strange power. Energy flow. Blocked, she whispered. Not broken. Out of rhythm. I will guide it back. Harper stared at the readings. Captain, the reactor output is stabilizing on its own. Elias watched as the red lights faded to amber, then to calm green. The vibration softened until it vanished. Zyra opened her eyes and stepped back. It listens, she said simply. The bridge fell silent. Crew members exchanged bewildered looks. Harper finally spoke, his voice low. How did she do that? Elias kept his gaze on Zyra. Later, he said. For now, secure all systems and run a full check. I want every line tested. Yes, Captain. Harper turned back to the controls, though his eyes still lingered on the Varelian girl. When the alarms quieted, Elias led Zyra to a private observation deck. Stars glowed beyond the wide window, cold and endless. You saved this ship, he said. How? Zyra clasped her hands. I told you. I hear energy. It is part of me. The reactor only needed a gentle path back to harmony. You make it sound simple, Elias said, half amazed, half uneasy. But no human or Varelian engineer could have done what you did. Zyra looked away. The Council calls it a flaw. My body carries old lines of power. It frightens them. Elias felt a slow anger rise. The Council had given him Zyra as if she were worthless. Yet she had just prevented a disaster. He began to see the truth behind their so-called reward. They wanted to hide you, he said quietly. Zyra did not answer, but the faint sorrow in her eyes told him enough. Outside, the stars drifted in silent patterns. Aaliyah stood beside her, a new resolve forming in his mind. This quiet girl was no weak offering. She was something far greater, and the universe had just whispered its first secret to them both. The Argent Dawn sailed through the dark sea of space like a silent guardian. Days passed after the strange reactor event, but the crew still whispered about it. Everyone knew Zyra had done something no human engineer could explain. Some called it luck. Others called it danger. Elias Ward called it a mystery. Captain Elias spent long hours in his command chair, watching the endless stars on the bridge screen. The calm of space felt thin, as if a storm waited behind the black horizon. Every time he glanced toward the lower decks, his thoughts returned to Zyra, the quiet Varelian girl the Council had labeled weak. He remembered the way her eyes had closed during the power crisis, how her voice carried a hum that made the whole ship seem alive. The memory sent a faint shiver through him. One evening, Elias visited Zyra's cabin. The door slid open with a soft sigh. Zyra sat near the small window, her gray robe glowing faintly in the starlight. Patterns of light beneath her skin flickered like tiny rivers of silver. "You feel it too," she said before he could speak. Elias paused. "Feel what?" "The silence," she replied. "It is heavy tonight. Something moves beyond it." Her words struck him like a quiet bell. He stepped closer. "Do you mean an enemy ship?" Zyra tilted her head, listening to something unseen. "Not a ship. A hunger." Before Elias could ask more, the ship's alarm howled through the corridor. A sharp red glow filled the walls. "Captain to bridge." Harper's voice shouted through the comm. "Unknown vessels approaching at high speed." Elias tapped his communicator. "On my way." He turned to Zyra. "Stay here." But she was already on her feet. "I must come," she said firmly. There was no time to argue. Elias gave a quick nod, and together they raced to the bridge. The bridge buzzed with tension. On the main screen, a cluster of dark ships slid out of the void, sleek marauder craft with sharp wings like knives. Their engines glowed a sickly red. "They came from nowhere," Harper reported, eyes fixed on the data. "No warning, no signal." "They're locking weapons." "Raise shields," Elias ordered. "Prepare evasive maneuvers." The crew moved with practiced speed, but the marauders were faster. Bright lances of energy streaked across space, shaking the Argent Dawn with each hit. "Shields at 70%, an officer called. "Return fire," Elias commanded. The ship's cannons lit the dark with bursts of blue light, but the enemy ships danced like shadows, striking with cruel precision. "Captain," Harper shouted. "A gravity snare. They're pulling us in." Elias gripped the arm of his chair as the ship lurched violently. A powerful force dragged them toward a massive central cruiser hidden among the smaller attackers. "Engines losing power," another officer warned. "We can't break free." The lights flickered. The bridge shuddered. Fear rippled through the crew. Elias looked at the screen at the enemy closing in. A cold certainty settled in his chest. They were trapped. Then he heard a soft voice beside him. "I can help," Zyra said. Elias turned. Her eyes glowed faintly, the silver lines beneath her skin brightening. "You've done enough," he said quickly. "It's too dangerous." Zyra stepped forward, her small frame steady despite the trembling deck. "Danger's already here. Let me try." Harper shot a sharp look at Elias. "Captain, we can't let—" "Do it," Elias interrupted. His instincts screamed that Zyra was their only chance. Zyra moved to the center of the bridge. She knelt and placed her palms flat against the metal floor. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a low hum filled the air, soft but growing. The lights flickered again, but this time not in fear. They pulsed in rhythm with her voice. Her eyes closed and her body began to glow. Thin rivers of silver light spread from her hands across the floor like living threads weaving into the ship's systems. "Energy. Tangled," she whispered. "I will unbind it." The crew watched in stunned silence as panels lit with new patterns. The pull of the gravity snare faltered for a brief second. "Captain," Harper exclaimed. "The drag is weakening." Zyra's hum deepened, a sound that resonated in the bones. Her gray skin shimmered with hidden light, brightening until the silver beneath looked like flowing stars. Outside, the enemy ships faltered. Their weapons flickered and misfired as if some invisible hand twisted their energy. "Enemy systems are failing," an officer shouted. Elias watched, heart pounding, as Zyra's glow spread like a quiet storm. The gravity snare cracked with a burst of static. The Argent Dawn shuddered and then broke free. Cheers erupted across the bridge, but Zira's voice did not stop. Her humming rose into a soft, haunting melody. Outside, the Marauders' ships turned wildly, weapons sparking. One by one, they broke formation and fled into the endless dark. The stars grew quiet again. The red alarms faded, the humming stopped. Zira swayed slightly and collapsed to her knees. Zira. Elias rushed forward, catching her before she fell. Her skin was cool, her breathing shallow, but her eyes fluttered open. "It is done," she whispered. "You saved us," Elias said softly. Her faint smile held no pride, only gentle exhaustion. "The energy listens, if you ask with care." The bridge remained silent for a long moment. Every officer stared at the fragile girl in the captain's arms. Harper stepped closer, eyes wide. "Captain," he said quietly. "What is she?" Elias looked at Zira, her faint glow fading like the last light of a dying star. "Someone the council wanted us to underestimate," he replied. Zira's eyelids trembled. "They fear what I carry," she murmured. "A voice of the old stars. My family once sang to the universe, but the council called it dangerous. They hid me. They gave me away so I would vanish." Harper shook his head in disbelief. "They called her weak." Elias tightened his hold. "They were wrong." Hours later, after the crew repaired the shaken systems, Elias sat beside Zira in the medical bay. Soft lights glowed around them. The hum of the ship felt steadier, calmer, almost grateful. "You risked your life," he said quietly. Zira looked at him with tired eyes. "Life is not only breathing. It is choice. I chose to protect. You could have died." "I could have," she agreed, but the energy answered. It always does when the heart is true. Elias studied her face. The patterns under her skin still glimmered faintly, like starlight beneath water. He felt both wonder and anger. Wonder at her gift, anger at the council that had treated her as a burden. "They gave you to me to hide you," he said. "But they also gave you to someone who would see you." Zira tilted her head. "And do you see me, Captain?" Elias met her gaze. "I see someone extraordinary." A quiet warmth passed between them, not of romance but of shared purpose. They both knew the council's game was larger than a simple insult. If Zira's gift was real, and tonight had proved it, others might try to control her or worse. Outside the medbay window, the stars stretched across the black sky, endless and patient. Elias felt a new resolve forming inside him. "Rest now," he said gently, "but know this, no one will hide you again. Not while I breathe." Zira closed her eyes, a faint smile on her lips. "Then the stars have sent me to the right human." The ship glided on, carrying its quiet secret through the infinite night. Somewhere beyond the stars, the Varelian Council remained ignorant of the power they had tried to cast aside. But soon, Elias knew, the universe itself would learn the truth of Zira's gift, and of the strength they had all overlooked. The Argent Dawn drifted through the calm darkness of interstellar space, but the quiet was fragile. Captain Elias Ward had spent days trying to understand the full extent of Zira's power. Each time he watched her, he felt both awe and unease. Her abilities were unlike anything humans or even Varelians had ever seen. Zira sat in a corner of the observation deck, her gaze fixed on distant stars. The faint patterns under her gray skin shimmered like silver threads pulsing slowly. Elias approached carefully, aware that she was not just a passenger. She was a force of nature contained in a fragile body. "Zira," Elias began softly, "you saved the ship, saved the crew, and yet you hide something from me. I need to understand." She turned her head slightly, eyes meeting his. "There is much you do not know about me, Captain. About my kind, about what the Council fears." He leaned against the railing, watching her closely. "Tell me, I will listen." Her lips moved slowly, as if choosing each word carefully. "I am the last of a forgotten line. Our ancestors were called the Harmonics. We could listen to the energy of stars, ships, planets, even living beings. We could bend it, guide it, shape it. It was a gift. A beautiful gift." Elias felt a chill. "And the Council?" "They feared it," Zira said. Her voice was steady, though sadness shadowed her features. "Centuries ago, the Harmonics were too powerful. Our kind could change the course of battles, heal worlds, or destroy them if needed. The Council decided it was dangerous. They erased our records, hid the survivors, and claimed we were weak. That is why I was hidden, why I was given away." Elias's hands tightened around the railing. They called you weak? Zaira's gray skin seemed to glow faintly. Because they could not see. Because fear is louder than truth. They wanted me to vanish. But I did not vanish. The captain felt a new surge of determination. The council had underestimated her, underestimated humans, underestimated what courage could accomplish. You carry a power no one else remembers, he said, and they tried to discard you like you were nothing. But you are more than anything they imagined. A soft hum filled the observation deck. Elias glanced around. It was Zaira, her energy responding to his words. The patterns under her skin shimmered brighter, flowing like rivers of light. They tried to hide me, but the universe does not forget, she said. I was born to listen, to guide, to protect, and now I will. Days passed aboard the Argent Dawn. The crew grew cautious but fascinated by Zaira. Some tried to avoid her, unsure of her strange connection with the ship. Others watched silently, curious, trying to understand how such a delicate figure could hold such power. Elias spent every free moment with her, learning from her, trying to understand her gift. Zaira taught him to listen, not just with ears, but with attention, with patience, with empathy. You do not just command a ship, she said one evening. You feel it. Its heartbeat, its rhythm. You are like me in your way. Elias shook his head. I am no harmonic. I cannot feel energy like you do. Perhaps not yet, Zaira replied, but you see what others cannot. You believe in what others dismiss. That is a form of harmony too. Her words lingered. Elias realized that humans and Varelians might never understand each other fully, but in this small corner of space, they could find balance together. The calm did not last. A sudden signal arrived, sharp and urgent. Harper rushed onto the bridge, eyes wide. Captain! We are detecting a fleet moving rapidly toward the outer colonies. Unknown ships, high energy output. They are not Varelian, not human. Something different. Elias felt his stomach tighten. Could it be marauders again? Harper shook his head. Worse, their energy signature is unlike anything recorded. It feels hungry. Zaira's eyes narrowed. The silver threads under her skin pulsed quickly like lightning. She walked to the bridge console and laid her hands flat on the glowing panels. They feed on energy, she whispered. Cosmic energy, planetary life. They will not stop until nothing remains. We cannot outrun them. Elias's jaw tightened. Then we face them. Zaira shook her head. Not alone. You humans, Varelians, the Council. They cannot stop this alone. Only harmony. Only understanding of power without fear. Her words made Elias's heart pound. He realized the true danger of the universe. They were small in the face of forces that did not reason, did not negotiate, forces that fed on life itself. And yet Zaira's quiet certainty gave him hope. That night, in the quiet of her cabin, Zaira spoke more of her lineage. My ancestors taught us to listen to the stars and the hearts of those around us, she said softly. We could guide energy like a river, shape it to protect or heal. But the Council feared control, feared that someone like me would be too strong. They said strength alone corrupts, but it is fear that corrupts. Elias sat beside her. And now? Now, Zaira replied. We will show the universe that strength can protect. That harmony can fight hunger without consuming itself. That even those cast aside, those called weak, can carry the greatest power. She reached for his hand. It was small, fragile, yet somehow full of quiet fire. Elias felt her conviction flow into him, steady and unyielding. I will not let them hurt you, he promised. No one will. Not the Council, not enemies, not anyone. Zaira's faint smile was the first he had seen, a fragile bloom in the darkness. And I will not let them destroy the universe, but you must be ready, Elias. You and your people must learn to trust the unknown or all will fall. The following days were filled with preparation. Elias and Zaira worked together, studying the fleet's systems, learning from each other. Zaira showed him subtle ways of reading energy, how the ship breathed, how it reacted to the stars, how to sense disturbances before they became disasters. The human crew, though skeptical at first, began to notice improvements. The Argent Dawn moved more smoothly, reacted faster, and even the smallest fluctuations in power were caught and corrected. Zaira's presence was no longer a curiosity, it was a vital advantage. During training exercises, Zaira demonstrated her gift in small ways. She could sense a misalignment in the engines, correct a guidance error, and even redirect energy flows without touching the panels. Crew members whispered among themselves. This girl was not just a passenger. She was the reason they could fly faster, fight harder, and survive longer. Elias watched her with pride and caution. Her power was extraordinary, but the galaxy was full of those who would fear and hunt it. He knew the Council's gift had not been given out of respect. They had wanted to hide her. Now he understood that Zira was not merely a tool. She was a living force, and the universe itself had not yet measured her worth. One evening, Zira stood on the observation deck, staring at a distant star cluster. Elias joined her, silent. "You wonder if they will ever understand," she said, almost to herself. "They never understood," Elias said. "Not the Council, not the fleets, not anyone. But that does not matter. You know your strength, I know it. That is enough to start." Zira's eyes shimmered. "Then we begin, together. The Council will learn, the galaxy will learn. They will know what it means to underestimate the last of the harmonics." Elias nodded. He felt a surge of determination. They were small against the universe, but they were not powerless. With Zira, he had seen that even the weakest could wield unimaginable strength. And now, with knowledge, preparation, and courage, they would face whatever came next. Outside the ship, the stars glimmered, silent witnesses to the awakening of a power the galaxy had forgotten, a power the Council had tried to erase. But Elias and Zira would ensure that the truth was no longer hidden. The Argent Dawn sailed on, carrying its secret and its protector through the endless night, toward a universe that would soon realize the danger of underestimating those who seemed small, weak, or unremarkable. And somewhere, beyond the farthest stars, enemies stirred, sensing the growing light. They would soon learn that the girl the Council had dismissed was not weak. She was the universe's quiet, unstoppable force. The Argent Dawn moved through the void like a lone sentinel, carrying humans, Varelians, and the quiet force that was Zira. The stars stretched endlessly around them, cold and unfeeling, yet within the ship tension hung like a living thing. Reports came in from the outer colonies. Planets losing energy, cities darkening, strange gravitational waves distorting space. "They are coming," Zira whispered, standing beside Elias on the observation deck. The faint silver patterns under her skin glimmered brighter than ever. "They feed on energy, planetary, stellar, living. Nothing can stop them, except harmony." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we will fight together. Humans, Varelians, you and me, we stop them or die trying." Zira's eyes met his. There was no fear, only quiet certainty. "They will learn, Elias. They will learn that power is not only in strength but in understanding and heart." The fleet gathered at the edge of the Draxan Rift, a cluster of star systems under threat. Human ships lined up alongside Varelian cruisers, forming a fragile wall of metal and shields. Beyond, dark shapes loomed, vast alien entities with jagged hulls and glowing red cores, pulsing with hunger. "Captain Ward, we cannot hold them with conventional weapons," Admiral Hayes said, voice tense. "Their energy absorbs our fire and strengthens itself." Elias nodded. "Then we fight differently." He looked at Zira. "It's your turn." Zira stepped forward. The crew watched in awe as she extended her hands toward the stars. Her hum began quietly, almost musical, but it rose quickly into a resonance that filled the entire fleet. Silver light flowed from her fingers, radiating outward like waves in a calm sea. Ships shuddered as energy aligned with her song, shields strengthened, engines ran smoother, and systems that had been failing came to life. The Marauders' attacks, once deadly, faltered against this invisible force. "They do not expect this," Harper whispered. "The alien ships, they hesitate." Zira closed her eyes, concentrating. She felt the pulse of every vessel in the fleet, the faint heartbeat of each planet, the raw energy of stars themselves. Her voice hummed, guiding the energy like a river, turning chaos into harmony. The enemy ships lashed out, attempting to break the formation. But every attack that should have destroyed a cruiser faltered. Their energy was redirected, dissipated, or reflected. Even the gravitational waves they generated twisted harmlessly away. "Captain," Harper said in disbelief, "she's controlling their energy." Elias's gaze never left Zira. "She is not just controlling it, she is teaching it." The largest Marauder ship surged forward, its hull glowing brighter than the rest. Its energy pulse threatened to shatter the fleet. Elias realized that conventional weapons would be useless. He turned to Zira. "Can you stop it?" he asked. Zira nodded, a faint smile crossing her tired face. "Yes, But I need your trust, Elias. All of you must focus on one thought, harmony, not fear, not anger. Harmony. The fleet's captains, hesitating, followed his orders. All ships synchronized to the Argent Dawn, Elias commanded. Trust her. Follow her lead. The Varelian and human crews extended their attention, listening to Zira's hum, letting their energies align. Light began to flow from the Argent Dawn, spreading across the fleet like silver rivers. Zira's patterns intensified, pulsing faster, brighter. The alien vessel's core surged, but it could not break the harmony. Its weapons misfired, engines buckled, and its energy began to collapse inward, destabilized by Zira's resonance. Now, Zira whispered. Elias pressed forward, steering the Argent Dawn into a precise orbit around the alien ship. Zira extended her hands toward the enemy, and with a final, haunting hum, energy from the fleet and the universe itself converged. The alien vessel shattered in a silent explosion of light, its energy absorbed and dispersed harmlessly by Zira's power. Silence fell across the rift. Stars seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself exhaled. The fleet floated, trembling but intact, alive. When the battle ended, the crew stared at Zira in awe. She collapsed to her knees, drained but smiling faintly. Elias rushed to her side. You did it, he said softly. We did it, Zira corrected, her voice weak but steady. You and your people listened. You trusted. The fleet's commanders approached cautiously. The Varelian Council representatives had arrived, silent witnesses to the miracle. Their faces were pale, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. High Chancellor Vorex stepped forward, voice trembling. This is impossible. Elias straightened. No, you called her weak. You underestimated her. You underestimated humans. But today your definitions failed. Zira lifted her head, silver pattern still glowing faintly under her skin. Power is not in fear. It is in harmony, and it is in courage, in trust, and in the choice to protect. The council fell silent. For the first time, their arrogance met truth. In the following days, the fleet traveled to the affected systems, restoring energy and guiding planets back to stability. Zira remained at the heart of every operation, her quiet presence bringing life to failing worlds. Elias stood beside her as they watched a planet's sun rise over the horizon of a city. Children ran through streets once darkened, citizens cheered, and humans and Varelians worked side by side, learning from each other. She is extraordinary, Harper whispered. Yes, Elias replied, his gaze on Zira. And the universe knows it now. Zira turned to Elias. They will still fear me, she said. Some will want to control this power. Others will try to destroy it, but we will guide it together. He took her hand gently. No one will touch you. Not while I breathe, not while we stand together. Her faint smile was enough to light the dark. Then the stars sing again, she said. The council eventually approached, humbled and cautious. They bowed before Zira, their usual pride replaced by quiet respect. Elias stood between them and Zira, silent and protective. You were wrong to discard her, he said. You were wrong to fear. She is the last of the harmonics, a protector of worlds and a teacher to all who will listen. Do not make that mistake again. The Chancellor bowed his head. We see now. Your power is undeniable. Forgive our blindness. Zira's voice was calm, her strength quiet but unyielding. Forgiveness is not enough. Learn, understand, protect. Power is only worth using when it serves life. As the fleet returned to their respective homes, Elias and Zira stood on the Argent Dawn's observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly, bright and beautiful. You have changed everything, Elias said softly. And you have changed me, Zira replied. Humans are different from the council thought. You believe in what others dismiss. That is your strength. Elias shook his head, smiling. And you are the greatest strength I have ever seen. They stood together in silence, watching stars drift by, knowing the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. The weakest are sometimes the most powerful. The smallest can change the universe. And harmony, true harmony, is the ultimate weapon. Zira's eyes glimmered with silver light, soft but endless. She was no longer the hidden, underestimated girl. She was the universe's quiet force, a living song of protection, courage, and hope. The Argent Dawn sailed onward, carrying humans, Varelians, and the girl the council had dismissed. The galaxy had witnessed their power, and those who had doubted would remember. Never underestimate the strength of those who are patient, brave, and true. Together, Elias and Zira looked to the stars, ready to face whatever new challenges came. The universe was vast, full of unknown dangers and hidden wonders. But now they would face it as one, a testament to courage, understanding, and the quiet, unstoppable power that lies within the most underestimated souls. And so, the legend of Zira, the last harmonic, and Captain Elias Ward, the human who trusted the impossible, began. A story told across stars, a story of hope, strength, and the power that lies within the quietest heart.